Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to NFR. Welcome back to SKR, of course, on a Sunday evening. We are now in round 4 of season 8, and if you haven't had enough Silverstone for one afternoon, we're here to do it one more time. Hopefully for all the drivers it'll be a slightly more straightforward race than what we saw this afternoon. Lots of change in the weather conditions. Be interesting to see how the evening plays out. We already got a bit of action out on track, quite a few cars getting out on the tarmac early on. Welcome to Skull, welcome to Death Queen, Visor. Not quite sure why Visor is talking about cold meats in the comment section, but a lot of talk about ham. Welcome to Marlies. I'm used to seeing on a Thursday night, good to have you here on a Sunday evening. Of course, qualifying has just started. We've got just over 11 minutes remaining. Most of the drivers out on track, 3 remain in the pits. Those 3 drivers are Spikes, Stoffel and Mr. Rem. Everybody else is out on circuit. Of course, the field we have for you this evening is 14 runners. We have Convoy, Smurf, Harsh Cartoon, Quibus, Virus, Top Gun, Divan, Spikes, Pantry Star, Skull, Stoffel, Mr. Rem, Boinkies, and of course, Andre. No lap times just yet, but soon we will start to get an indication of who's going to be quick tonight and who's going to be struggling tonight. This is Harsh Cartoon, one of the 2 Ferraris here this evening. The other one is Virus, just down the road from him, also out on a quick lap. It's just a Red Bull running wide there. Bring up some of your stats. No surprises, everybody out on the soft. Of course, the fastest compound available, that's what you need in qualifying. Don't worry about your other compounds in the race. If you guys have any predictions in the comment section for a pole lap time, let me know. Let's see how close we can get. First of the lap times over the board is Quibus. It's a 1:28.4. Pantry Star has just gone quicker, 27.5. Now we wait for Convoy to go over the line. Does not set a lap time, so that tells me he's got 1 lap on those tyres, so he must have invalidated the previous lap. It's going to put him under a little bit of pressure. He's out of sync with the rest of the runners now. Didn't get that lap time on his first run. Divan, fastest man in the session now, 27.4. Takes pole position 1/10 further. Of course, these are just the initial laps. Remember, a lot of these guys will probably do a few laps prior to the race, but with the timing of the British Grand Prix this afternoon, I'm guessing a lot of these guys were watching the race and quickly jumped in their rig So they might just take a run or two to get their absolute best out of the car. I'm just feeling a little rusty. Hopefully didn't enjoy too many beers during the British Grand Prix, otherwise it's going to show in this British Grand Prix. Of course, what a race it was earlier on. Lewis Hamilton taking what I think is his 104th victory. And the time difference between the 104 and 103 was almost 1,000 days. If I had told you 3 weeks ago we were going to have back-to-back Mercedes victories, you would have laughed at me. So far in the session, Conboy, we saw he had to do 2 runs. On that first run he went over the line, did not set a lap time. That was an invalidated lap, but now he's gone around again, set a 26.5. It's good enough for provisional pole, and it's good enough for provisional pole by quite some margin. Almost a second between the front row. This is Spikes in one of the 2 Red Bulls here this evening, currently in P8. His best lap time is a 28.4. We ride on board with him through the most iconic part of this race circuit. Feels great when you get it right, but when you get it wrong, that can be the deciding factor in your lap time. Does he go into the pits? No, he does not. Committing to a lap. Spikes currently in P8. 128.4 was his best time. Does improve. Look at that. He improves up to P2. It's a 27.2. We got a great view of that lap. Of course, Spikes, a Lewis Hamilton fan, driving a Red Bull. Well, Mr. Rem, the second of the 2 Red Bulls, he's gone up into P6, 27.9. Quite a way away from his teammate. 6/10 between the 2 Red Bulls. Further back in the field, the 2 Aston Martins, currently P12, P13. Skull has a 28.7. Andre, 31.4. Don't think that's a representative lap. He must have backed out of it, or something must have gone horribly wrong. So he's out there again to set an improvement. Try and get himself up into the midfield. It's a lot easier said than done. This is a quick field. May not be a field of 20, but it is a very quick field. Stoffel, no lap from him. He remains in the pits. I wonder if he has some sort of penalty. It's more than half the session is gone by and he remains in the pits. They've been asking my opinion on Hamilton's win. Well, it was definitely not an easy victory. He had to contend with all sorts of conditions: dry tyres, inter tyres, when's it time to come in, when's it time to stay out. His teammate retired with a mechanical failure, and I'm sure that would have been in the back of his mind too. But look, at the end I think he did a good job. Norris wasn't able to hold on to those softs, and that's why he fell into the clutches of Max Verstappen. And I think Lewis was just doing a better job managing those tyres. Matt was catching him towards the end, but managed that gap well enough to stay out front. So I think it was a good victory. It was well deserved, and he is the 5th winner this season. Looking from a fan perspective, and if you're trying to be as neutral as I can, from a neutral fan perspective, it's the best possible thing for Formula 1. We're 12 races in, we're halfway through the season, we've got 5 winners, and championship isn't absolutely decided. Of course, one team we're still waiting for a big upgrade from is Red Bull, so when that big upgrade does come to Red Bull, we don't know how it's going to affect the car. Harsh Cartoon improves up to P10, that's a 128.3. It's a lap time I'd be thrilled with here at SKR. Not quite quick enough. Only good enough for P10. He's currently outside the top 10. It's Stoffel. Well, he either went down that escape road, or for a moment of madness, he tried to go down the old pit entry. Not quite sure what happened there. Skull in the pits. Top Gun out on track. Harsh Cartoon on an in lap. 2 McLarens, Boinkies and Kurbis, currently in P7 and 8, both of them out on track. We said Andre needed a representative time. He's got a representative time. It's a 27.5, good enough for P5. And if you look how close those lap times are, if he finds another 3/10, he can put himself up into P3. There's definitely enough time for one more run. So if you're not out on track right now, you'll be getting on with it. Fortunately, we can't see how much time there is in the session because that caution's been up. There we go. Just over 5 minutes remaining in the session, so everybody can get out, have another lap. Drivers that are currently out on track, this might be their final run. This is Kurbis returning to the pits. Provisional pole sitter in the pits. In fact, your top 4 in the pits. That's Convoy, Divan, Spikes and Pantry Star. Quickest driver out on circuit is currently the man in P5. That's Top Gun. He's actually doing this on used softs. You can see it there in your timing screen. Those softs have a few laps on them. So I wonder if he's going to peel off into the pits. There's 4 minutes remaining. I think he's going to be able to put on a new fresh set of softs and get out there just in time. It's going to be one of the final drivers to cross that checkered flag. Everyone now in the pits with the exception of 2 drivers. That's Mr. M and Smurf. Those are the first 2 to pull the trigger in this final run. 1 Red Bull, 1 Haas. You can see the Haas just up the road there. That is Smurf going slowly, winding up for his final attempt of the evening. Mr. M will be doing the same thing, but he'll be thinking, got to make sure there's enough of a gap. Don't want to run into Smurf on my quick lap. Of course, the benefit of having someone close in front of you on a quick lap is that slipstream, but it can also work against you very badly. This is Mr. M starting his final run. Red Bull driver currently in P10, 127.9, just getting into the 27s. See if he finds any improvement here in Sector 1. It's actually a little slower than his personal best. Keep our eyes on him. Convoy, provisional pole sitter, out on track. I think that lap time was not done on fresh tyres. It took him 2 runs to get that lap done. Not sure what's happened there with Convoy. I think he's just getting out of the way. Doesn't want to stay stationary for too long. This game can be quite erratic with its disqualifications. The other day we had someone getting disqualified and they were beached on a curve. With Mr. M at the start of his lap, we now join Mr. M at the end of his lap. Let's see if he can find improvement. Currently in P10, he goes over the line. He did 1 lap, he didn't improve. He's got a lot of battery charge. I wonder if he backed out of that lap and he's having another go. There was no improvement there from the Red Bull driver. We have a lot of cars on out laps. Virus, one of the drivers on a quick lap. Visor, clearly a very happy man. I think it's the first time I've had somebody spamming my comment section. I did get a little confused though, because I was looking at the comment section and I was seeing Visor spamming the comment section, then I looked at the screen and I was like, wait, how is he driving? But that's not Visor driving, that is Virus. Slight confusion there. Had to do a double take. But this is even more impressive if he's spamming the comment section while driving out on circuit. Some drivers have now already taken that checkered flag. Let's go to your provisional pole sitter. Where is he on track? Convoy. He's about to come to the end of that lap. His current best is a 126.5. Let's see if he's got any improvement in him, if he's going to move the goalpost even further. Goes over the line, he does move it further. It's a 26.3. Finds another 1.5 tenths. He has confirmed his pole position. Let's go on board with Andre. It's Andre in one of the 2 Aston Martins. The other Aston Martin has retired from the session. Will be starting in P12, that is Skull. Virus also now retiring from the session. I think we only have 2 cars out on track, that is Smurf. Looking for an improvement. And Harsh Cartoon also out on track. He's actually just come back into the pits. So Smurf, he's going to get all the footage till the end. The only man, I was going to say on a quick lap, but I don't think he's on a quick lap because he's got a full battery charge. He's just going to go over the line and this session's going to be over. There we go. Everyone has taken the checkered flag. And it's almost time to go racing in Silverstone. We now just await those official results from qualifying. And there they are. Convoy takes pole position, 126.3, 3/10 quicker than anyone else. Divan P2, then Spikes P3, Mr. Rem gets the Red Bull up onto the second row, so it's an all Red Bull second row, 3 and 4. Andre P5, Pantry Star P6. They're followed by Top Gun, Virus, Smurf and Quibus in the top 10. Starting from outside the top 10, we've got Poengies P11, Skull P12, Harsh Cartoon 13, and Stoffel P14. Screen disappeared on me there. We now look at the empty pit lane as everybody is sitting to our right on the start finish line. Everyone doing their final adjustments, their final strategy tweaks. Of course, we should have a formation lap to get us going. You'll know when we get to the start finish line. If you see 5 red lights, we're going racing. If you see a solitary green light, well, there we go. It means we're off for a formation lap. Of course, this is one opportunity for the drivers to get some tire temperature into the car, get some brake temperature into the car, and obviously have their first feel of a full fuel tank around this circuit. To have muted myself. Luckily, it was just the formation lap and you haven't missed a thing. When we do get away, it's going to be Convoy lining up beside him on the front row, Divan in the Kick Salba, then the 2 Red Bulls are going to be just behind on the second row in P3 and 4. Third row, Andre and Pantry Star. Then Pantry Star's teammate Top Gun in P7, Virus P8, Smurf P9. Then we have the pair of McLarens, 10 and 11. Skull down in P12, just wasn't able to nail a lap time in qualifying. We know he's quicker than that. Then we have Harsh Cartoon 13 and Stoffel, who I don't think set a lap time. And we got through that little monologue just as the drivers got to their parking spots. Of course, if you see any disqualifications on your screen in the next few moments, don't be alarmed. That just means the driver didn't get his parking right and he's going to be pushed back slightly. There we go, there's one of them, Quibus, as well as Skull. That just means they're going to be pushed back slightly in their starting position. It's a slight disadvantage, but not a game changer. I'm not sure why we got that warning, but DRS disabled apparently. And off we go, 5 red lights. Convoy leads the way into turn 1, Divan P2, and the Red Bulls holding firm in 3 and 4. Is that... no, I've made a mistake, they're not holding firm 3 and 4. Andre's made up a position early on in the race. Aston Martin up into P4, one of the Red Bulls have lost the position, that spikes down to P5, followed by the pair of Mercedes-Benz, and what a day it was for Mercedes-Benz earlier on this evening. Let's see if they can replicate that sort of a performance. Then we've got Top Gun P7, Virus P8, first of the 2 Ferraris. It's all Ferrari power here, it appears. Virus, Smurf, then Harsh Cartoon in P10. And we have Skull, he's already made up a few positions, he's up into P11, then Stoffel, and the 2 McLarens. making up the field, Kurbis and Boinky. Write those McLarens off at your own peril. Kurbis and Boinky's both incredibly quick drivers. Just the start of the race obviously has not gone the way they would have wanted. It's a long race, 26 laps around a very challenging circuit. Mistakes are never far away. I haven't heard anything in the comment section. I know there's one or two drivers in the comment section and nobody's informed me about rain, so I'm going to presume there is no rain. Convoy leads the way at the end of lap 1, Divan in P2 where he started. Verstappen's been able to hold on to his P3. Andre, and making up a position at the start of the race, got past one of the two Red Bulls, now coming under serious pressure from that very Red Bull. It spikes all over the back of the Aston Martin, and he's not even going to wait for DRS, is he? Tries to go up the inside. Aston Martin holds firm. Red Bull has to go to the outside, and he might actually lose another position to the Mercedes. Holds on to it for now. The Top Gun's going to have the superior traction. Not really the corner you want to make an overtake in. You're going to have to be really brave if you want to do it into cops. Through Maggots and Beckett's, you've just sort of got to accept the position, try and get as close to the diffuser of the car in front of you, so when you open up DRS, you can make an overtake at the end of the straight. And there we go, some cars going side by side. Top Gun Pantry 6 and 7. Andre has lost the position. Remember, he made that position up at the start, went up into P4. That Red Bull has reclaimed its P4, so the Red Bull's back up into 3 and 4. I'm sure Christian Horner would love a team that could finish 3 and 4 rather than 3 and 2 laps behind. Convoy still out front. Divan still P2. Top 4 haven't changed, with the exception of Andre breaking into the top 4 for those initial laps and then losing the position. Mercedes in 6 and 7, they haven't really been able to make up any ground. That's where they started. And you've got the two Ferraris. They're doing a good job so far, 8 and 9. A recovery race for them. Remember, Hoshkot team started right at the rear of the field. He's doing a good job. Then Smurf P10 holding on to that final points position. And the two McLarens, I told you to watch out for the two McLarens. They were 13 and 14. They've each made up positions. So they're now P11 and P12. They're going to be looking to come through the field. 3 drivers at the front. Well, there's only 2 drivers at the front. But the top 3 all on the soft compound of tyre. Then Spikes and Andre going on a slightly different strategy, going for the medium, which makes Andre's start even more impressive, knowing that everybody around him was on the superior compound. He was able to get quite an electrifying start. We do have a caution, and well, it almost gave me a fright. I thought I saw a safety car on track, but that was just a Papaya McLaren on the track map. We should be underway shortly. We just wait for that caution to stop flashing, and there we go, it stopped flashing. Sometimes it goes solid and says safety car, but not this time around. Convoy leads from Divan. So we've been close together throughout, but at least when we've been watching, we haven't really seen them go at each other just yet. Divan's been happy to follow, let Convoy use all of his tyres, use all of his brake energy trying to defend. And when you know you've withered down his defences, you make the move. And that's exactly what Divan has done. He was patient for the first 4 laps of the race. Now he's getting on with it. First thing he needs to do is shake the Alpine off, get it out of his DRS. Otherwise, Convoy's just going to be able to come back right at him. Divan, fastest lap of the race, 29.6. That'll obviously also be with the help of DRS on that previous lap. If you've ever wondered why they sometimes get the fastest lap and they had to make an overtake on that lap, well, it's because they had DRS down the straight and they were doing ridiculous speeds. Convoy getting awfully close to the back of the Sauber. Saw him lock up. Got to be so careful. You want to be as close as you can for the next DRS zone, but you don't want to lose the front wing because that's not going to help you at all. You're just going to go backwards, especially on a track like Silverstone. Any sort of damage, you're going to have to get that wing repaired. A downforce crucial circuit, this one. If you do break that front wing, you're going to have all sorts of trouble. But the first penalty of the evening, and it goes to Stoffel. If I read it correctly, it was just a track limits violation, so 3 seconds for that driver. As I say the first, I notice there's another. So Kurbis also has a penalty next to his name. I was correct about Stoffel, just the 3 seconds for track limits, but Kurbis on the other hand, I think he made a pit stop for the hard tyre, and in the process got a penalty for speeding in the pit lane. And as we know on F124, it's no longer 5 seconds, it's now 10 seconds. And it can really hurt your race, especially when you were already in what could be described as a recovery drive. Divan from Convoy. Convoy going to the outside, using all of the racetrack. He's just trying to maximize his exit on the next corner. Really close through Copse, and there's not too much you can do here through Magnussen Beckett unless you're feeling very brave. In the Alpine, just showed a front wing for a moment. I thought he was going to go and do something crazy, but he has just stuck behind the Sauber, and now he'll get DRS. And there's going to be little Divan can do to defend that. He just tucks in behind the Alpine. We actually saw Lando Norris getting past Max Verstappen in that very corner earlier on in the race. And Max Verstappen really did nothing to defend the position. There's nothing you can do. We actually saw on that Lando overtake, when Lando opened up his DRS, he was 4/10 back. And he still managed to make the overtake into that next corner, so that just shows you the effect of DRS. You could effectively pick up half a second, and that's on a track that's not known for its strong DRS zones. Something like that would be much more exaggerated in a place like Baku, or Las Vegas, or Saudi Arabia. Convoy and Divan, they've been the two at the front throughout the race so far, raiding first place. The Red Bulls, 3 and 4, they haven't been able to stay with the leaders, but they have been able to match each other in speed so far. Those Red Bulls are also on a split strategy. So Mr. M was in P3, he's actually now fallen down to P4, his teammates got him past him. His teammate crucially on the medium compound, so he's the only driver there in the top 3 doing something slightly different, and we'll be hoping the soft runners ahead of him start to have tyre issues so that he can impact that 4.4 second gap. So that his teammate behind him, don't think his teammate would do something too erratic. We have Andre in P5, Remember, he started in P5, briefly got himself up into P4, and made a pass on spikes right at the start of the race, then lost that position. But since then he's been able to maintain his P5 position, and it hasn't been an easy task because he's not exactly having what I would call a lonely race. He's in the middle of a DRS train. Probably the one benefit he does have is he's in the middle of that DRS train, which means the car ahead of him and the car behind him all get the same advantage when you open up DRS. Of course, if you're at the front of that DRS train, then you're the only car that doesn't get the DRS boost. Everyone else behind you, weaving left and right, can be quite nerve-wracking, but Andre's doing a good job for now. Sitting close behind the Red Bulls. It's quite a DRS battle. This goes all the way back to Virus in P8. So from P3 down to P8, with all of those cars within DRS of each other. Then Harsh Cartoon, I was going to say he's falling back from his teammate, but that's not the case. He's diving into the pits. So Harsh Cartoon, one of the first to come into the pits. Wonder if there's any damage to the wing. Just a straightforward stop, and he's back on his way on a set of mediums. Thought he might have just come in early because of some damage, but that looked like a scheduled stop. Harsh Cartoon back underway. And lots of switching for position here. Skull versus Smurf, left and right. You always wait for those tires to bang. You almost feel like it's inevitable. How close can you get? They're going 3 wide. What a helicopter shot. That is a fantastic helicopter shot. One of the best I've had, at least in the comms box. And Skull, unfortunately for him, started off by trying to make a position and ended up losing 2. Some fantastic driving by all 3 of those drivers. There could have been contact. It could have been a mess. It could have triggered a safety car. Lots of respect shown, and that means the battle was able to continue, and it still continues, and that's for the final point. That is the battle for P10. Every single point means so much. Might not think there's much of a difference between finishing P10 and P11, but trust me, there is. We have a caution. Hopefully that's all it is. Some of the drivers will be wishing it was something more. That would be a safety car right in the pit window. That is not the case. We're back underway. Remember, in the last 2 rounds of SKR we have not had a safety car, so this would be the 3rd week in a row. It would be quite an impressive feat. And I was quite convinced that the safety car was turned off, but I was assured that it is set to exactly the same rules as the other leagues we stream, so well done to SKR. 2 weeks in a row, no safety car. And we're almost at halfway distance. It looks like we may extend that record. Convoy retakes the lead of the race. These two just trading places for first place, but making sure not to make contact. They don't want to trip over each other. They just want to... This is the first stint of the race. Doesn't really matter who's leading. Just need to keep up. You'd like to be in front at the end of the pit window. And that's quite the lockup. Big lockup coming from Convoy. Surely they're coming to an end of that soft run. Both of them have done 10 laps on the soft. That must be pretty close to the end of that soft's life. I think you can take it for about 12 laps, but I don't know why you would. Perhaps it's not going to feel very great by lap 12. 3 of those drivers that started on softs are still on track. Stoffel, Convoy and Divan. Everybody else has gotten rid of their soft tyres. We have two runners at the rear of the field on hard tyres. That's Skull and Quibus. So they'll be looking to go much deeper on into this race. Something must have gone wrong there for Skull. He was in a battle for P10 not so long ago, and now we don't see much of a battle for P10. So I wonder if those cars just eventually ran into each other. When we were watching, it looked quite spectacular. It seems like as soon as the broadcast turned away, there might have been an impact somewhere between those drivers, because now they're pretty spread apart. One boy leads the way from Divan, and this is probably the biggest we've seen the gap so far. Just went over a second there briefly. So crucial you stay within the 1 second mark so that you can have DRS. Even if that driver ahead of you is a tenth or two quicker than you constantly every single lap, if you have DRS, you can effectively cancel out his advantage and just simply drive behind him lap after lap, even though he's quicker than you. But the moment you lose DRS, that 2 or 3 tenths a lap, means the gap is just growing further and further. Divan has responded though. He's come back into DRS. Just 5 tenths of a second is not going to be close enough. Remember, stay as close as you can through Maggots and Beckett's. You want to be about 3 to 4 tenths away here on the exit. I'll say that he's 5 tenths behind. Then you open up DRS, you get as close as you can. I don't know if he's going to be close enough this time around. He's not. I said he'd like to be about 3.5 tenths, 4 tenths behind there on the exit. But I don't think he was too interested in that overtake anyway, because he knew he was coming into the pits. So your leaders, Convoy, Divan, both of them into the pits. And I was going to say Spikes is going to inherit the lead of this race. And he's bottled that final turn. He's managed to keep the car going, but he's lost a lot of momentum, and it's allowed Pantry Star to come up right on the back of that Red Bull. It's a crucial time to make a mistake. This is in that territory of undercuts, the dangerous time during the pit window when you want to be doing the best laps possible. Locked up badly in that final corner, lost a lot of momentum, and now he's at risk of losing a position to Pantry Star. Of course, some drivers start on a softer compound, some start on a harder compound. Drivers with the softer compound, they will come into the pits first. Now the drivers with this medium compound, this is the crucial part of the race for them. They're supposed to be building up a gap while those soft runners are trying to get heat into their tires, while they're trying to get going again, trying to find their feet. You're supposed to be out there whacking lap after lap after lap. And unfortunately for that Red Bull, that's what I was talking about, that just didn't happen. Did a good job to hold on to the position, so he stays ahead of Pantry Star. You know, these guys are pretty spot on hitting the purple on the pit stop, so I guess both of them are going to have about a 2.2 second pit stop, and they'll come out exactly where they were, and that's exactly what happened. So Boinkies, now the new leader of the race. Didn't think you'd hear that 13 laps ago. Remember, he was right at the rear of the field, him and his teammate. His teammate still at the rear of the field, Quibus in P14. But Boinkies, although he hasn't pit, it is still very impressive. Boinkies leads the way here in round 4 of season 8. Stoffel picks up another 3-second penalty. Don't know if there were any in between that, but I believe that's the second one he's picked up, so he'll be up to 6 seconds. Actually have a few penalties up on the screen, so let's just check those. We have 3 seconds apiece for Divan. That's the man in P2. That could prove crucial for his race result later on. Then Top Gun also a 3-second penalty. Then we still have those 10 seconds for Kurbis, so he will serve those the next time he comes into the pits, which he surely will. If not, it'll be added to his race time. And then Stoffel, well, it was 6 seconds, but he's managed to pick up a 10-second penalty of his own. Boinkies comes in from the lead, and that will allow the two that have been scrapping for the lead the entire time to recommence their battle for the lead. Convoy leads Divan this time round. It's advantage Convoy, because not only is he in the lead, Divan has a 3-second penalty. That means in order for Divan to win this race, he can't just win it on the racetrack. He needs to be 3 seconds at least up the road from his nearest competitor, so he's not going to be able to play the game they were playing in the first stint of the race, where they just were switching positions, waiting for the pit window. He's going to have to make the overtake and absolutely get on with it. We haven't looked at the tyres in a while. I presume those two are on the same tyre, and they are. Both of them on the medium compound, just 2 laps on those mediums. They'll be taking those right to the end of the race. We're riding currently with the man in P3, slightly out of sync with the 2 ahead of him because he made a pit stop earlier on, also on a relatively fresh set of mediums. I'm still trying to figure out how the Ferrari got himself up into P3. Fantastic job from Virus so far. Ferrari did not look in contention for a podium. And suddenly, there is a possibility. Convoy sets the fastest lap of the race. It's a 29.0. And he's actually pulling away from Divan. I said Divan needed to make the overtake and build a gap at least 3 seconds big. But for the time being, the opposite is happening. The gap at the front now 1.7 seconds, and we have probably the first considerable lead of the race. Spikes in P5. That's pressure. They're trying to make an overtake. He's looking at the Aston Martin. He's waiting for any sort of mistake from the Aston Martin so he can get the overtake. And then he looks into his mirrors, and there's a Red Bull all over them. You're trying to attack, and while you're trying to attack, in the back of your mind, you're also trying to defend. Probably the most stressful place to be on the racetrack. It's in the middle of one of those DRS trains. Spikes doesn't want to be in the middle of the DRS train any longer. That's why he pulls to the inside. He's got past Andre. Andre demoted back into P5, where he's been for a majority of the race. He's made that position his own. Spikes now up into P4, and he can chase after the Ferrari ahead of him. Virus will be on a set of hards, and they're much fresher than Virus's mediums. So towards the end of the race, he should be able to make up a lot of time on that Ferrari. Do you think the Ferrari's going to try and go to the end on those tyres though? Don't expect any of these drivers at the front to have any pit stops in mind. Convoy up front, 2.1 seconds is the gap, so that gap continues to grow. Divan just hasn't had that pace to match Convoy. In the second stint of the race, there was nothing in it in the first stint of the race when they were both on that set of softs. Both so quick, matching each other's pace lap after lap, but on a set of mediums. Convoy has found something. And that gap now 2 seconds. Have to go a little further back to find the next man on the podium. That is Virus in the Ferrari. having a fantastic drive, really. The drive just came to him. It didn't look like the Ferraris were going to do too much in this race. Virus up into P3. And he's going to be doing everything he can to hold on to that P3. Just behind him on the road, he's got Spikes. Spikes is 5.3 seconds down the road. And he's still got to worry about defending from the likes of Andre, Top Gun, Pantry Star, all within DRS. And ever so briefly there, Top Gun went to the inside, had a think about getting past Andre, and then just thought better of it. This is sometimes when mistakes happen. Of course, lots of times towards the end of the race. Of course, many times towards the end of the race, in a normal race, in a normal field, you'll have gaps all over the place. But when the field is this close together, look at this, anyone with a penalty, they're really going to hurt. Top Gun's got a penalty, let's just check, it's a 3-second penalty. So that means Top Gun is currently in P6 and he would fall down to P8. So this field is so incredibly close together. Anyone with a penalty is going to feel it. And I wonder if Divan is just not absolutely in this battle because he knows he's got that penalty next to his name, but surely not. Guys have the racing driver attitude. They want to win. They're not out here to finish second. Those were the words of Max Verstappen after the Austrian Grand Prix. When asked by German media about the incident with Lando Norris, he said, "Well, I'm leading the championship. I could have let him past, but I also could have stayed at home. I'm not here to finish second." That is a driver's attitude. So I don't think Divan is 1.9 seconds behind because he chooses to be. I think Conboy has just had that little bit extra in the final stint of the race and it's been crucial. But luckily for Divan, there is a big gap down the road to get to P3, so he will be able to maintain P2. But if he was hoping for a victory, going to have to make an overtake very quickly. I may have read that incorrectly, so I'm just going to get confirmation before I say it. And there's the confirmation. Divan has picked up another 3-second penalty, and that means effectively Conboy just needs to bring this car home, and that victory will be confirmed. Ooh, and Divan, it's going from worse to worse. He picked up a 3-second penalty which would have affected his race. Then he doubled those to a 6-second penalty. I said he'd be safe because the gap to P3 was a big one. Now there is no gap to P3. He is the man in P3 and he's got 6 seconds worth of penalties next to his name. So Divan could find himself in a position where he falls off the podium. Crucially for him, the man behind him has some penalties of his own. See, this is just another example of what I was talking about. Top Gun, he leads a DRS train. 4 cars there. You can see them, they're all in the frame. Top Gun at the front of that field is the only car with a penalty in those 4. And that effectively means, while on track he's at the front of the queue. On the timing sheets, he's going to be at the rear of that queue. You lose 3 positions, just like that. That's what happens when you've got a field that stays close together throughout the race. You often see it in a race full of safety cars because it keeps on bringing the field back together. But we're seeing in a race that's been pretty straightforward start to finish. No virtual safety cars, no safety cars, no DNFs. It's been pretty good all round. And of course, I just have to say this game's incredibly unrealistic. We haven't had a drop of rain, and we're in Great Britain. Of course, another thing I found interesting about today's British Grand Prix was that here in Johannesburg, the temperature was 19 degrees on a chilly winter's day, while in Silverstone, on a lovely summer's day in Britain, it was 17 degrees. At least here on the game, drivers have been able to enjoy sunshine. That definitely would have mixed things up if a few drops came down and drivers had to jump in for the intermediate. It's always so tough. Of course, you can see the track is getting wetter. You know you have to go to the inters. It's all about when do you go to the inters. And I expected those sort of conditions here in Britain tonight. I've commentated on many British Grand Prix, and for some reason a large majority of them have been wet. But not this evening. This evening it's been dry start to finish. And in just 2 corners time I can say officially... Can I? No, not yet. We have to wait for one more lap. If you're wondering what I'm gonna say, I'll tell you when Convoy goes over the start finish line next time round. Until then, I'm not going to mention it. Divan P2, Virus P3. So Divan has been able to retake P2 on the track. But surely he's not going to have the time, the laps, to hold on to that P2. He'd have to effectively open up a 6-second gap on Virus in the space of 2 laps. It's not something we're going to see happen. This is really impressive from the Aston Martin. I'm not quite sure how he's done it. He's held on to P5 for a majority of this race. Remember, started in P5, got up to P4 briefly, got back to P5. Then after the pit window he was in P6, made up a position, got up to P5, and he stayed there ever since. He's been in a DRS battle throughout the race. He must be exhausted. And I say he's made that position his own. Well, he's waited to the very end, and we got to see all of it on the broadcast. Andre aggressively to the inside, takes the position, puts himself up into P4. But now he's no longer a member of that DRS train. He's the leader of that DRS train, which means he's the only car that's not going to get DRS. So he's going to have to do a whole lot of defending, and he's going to have to hope he's got a whole lot of battery. And if you're looking at the screen, well, then you'll know that's not really the case. Luckily for him, his opponents are all very low on battery too. Convoy out front, the gap 10 seconds. And then of course that gap is to Divan, who has a 6-second penalty. So Kurbis very comfortably in the lead of this race. It is lap 23 of 26, so I can officially say 3 weeks in a row at SKR, no safety car. Of course, you require 3 laps for a safety car, so once we hit the 3 laps remaining, we are in the safety car safe zone. So, pretty much confirmed, 3 weeks in a row, no safety car. So well done to everyone else on circuit, and also well done, no DNFs, guys. Convoy 9.8 seconds. Divan P2. It's lap 24 of 26. Virus has done a fantastic job. Did not see him finishing on the podium earlier on this evening, but he's done fantastically well. Weiser, I've mentioned Hamilton's victory. And in fact, I think I was quite professional about it. So no need to rub it in anyone's face. My name is not Fernando. Not Fernando. I'm not Fernando Alonso. I'm not Fernando. I don't have anything against Lewis Hamilton. Of course, I was a Red Bull fan throughout Mercedes' dominance. So of course, I'm not his biggest fan, but I have nothing against him. He's a fantastic driver. One of only 2 men in the history of Formula 1 to achieve 7 world titles. And of course, to take a race victory at age 39. That's something nobody's really even mentioned, is his age. Second oldest driver on the grid, taking a victory at the age of 39. Very impressive. Unfortunately, I don't think that's a record Hamilton will ever take. Of course, the oldest man to win a Grand Prix, I believe he was 54. Those were, of course, very, very different times. There were no such thing as super licenses. You just had to buy your ticket to drive that the weekend. And the 54-year-old went on to win a Grand Prix officially. That's 25 or 26. Not much longer to go. Convoy leads from Divan. Virus P3. Top Gun has also had a really solid race. Well, Spike, well, Visor, you know, it was a really good British Grand Prix. I mean, I kind of feel a little sorry for George Russell. Don't know what happened there with his Mercedes, and they didn't say too much over the radio. So I think Mercedes wanted to keep that quiet. Something to do with the water system on the car. So I think cooling was an issue. But had that second Mercedes stayed in the race, I think we could have had a double Mercedes podium. And when we started the triple header, Spain, Austria, and now Great Britain, if you had told me at the start of that triple header that out of the next 3 races Mercedes would win 2 of them, not me, not many would have believed you. Fortunately for the Mercedes team, yet tonight they haven't been able to replicate the performance. Top Gun P5, he's had a real solid race though. And then a little worse for his teammate Panchestar in P10. His race has gone slightly backwards. We are on the final lap. We're looking at the leader. Now we're not. Now we're looking at Divan, currently in P2. He's not going to be able to hold on to that P2, and he'll know that. He's got the penalties next to his name. This is a man in P3 on track, and he's going to take P2 in the results. Virus. What a fantastic drive that's been. I was surprised to see him on the podium. Now not only is he on the podium, he's on the second step. So there is your checkered flag. Convoy went over it quite some time ago. There's the confirmation. Virus pops up onto the second step. But luckily for Divan, he had a sufficient gap and was able to hold on to his podium position. Before reading anything out, we'll just wait for those official results. Let the game sort itself out. Let's go further back to see who's still out on track. This is Smurf. All of the points finishers have finished. So the 4 drivers remaining on track, Smurf, Stoffel, Kurbis and Skull. There's a lot of S's in the last 4 there. No points on the table this evening for the likes of Smurf, Stoffel, Querbus and Skull. Fortunately for Querbus, his teammates scoring well in P5, as well as for Skull. Andre getting a good performance up the field. So not complete disaster for the McLaren and the Aston Martin. But if you're missing your teammate and you finish outside the points, it doesn't feel great. I didn't mute the podium and I didn't mute the results. That means, well, I'm going to get a copyright strike. Well, there are your official results. Convoy takes the victory. Fantastic drive. Virus P2. That was a proper solid drive. Then Divan could have been so much better, but he got those penalties at the end and really ruined his result. But minimized the damage. Still took home a podium. Andre P4, started P5, made up a position, so you'll be happy with that. Boinkies P5, Mr. M P6, Top Gun P7, Spikes P8, Pantry Star P9, and the final point going to Harsh Cartoon. Not quite in the points this evening. Smurf, Skull, Stoffel, and Querbus. What we're going to try and do now quickly is see if anybody wants to come to the comms box and talk a little bit about their race. Of course, if you're in the top 3, so P1, P2, P3, or if you're the driver of the day, and I believe the driver of the day was in P2, so those 3 drivers, you're invited to the comms box. You can just join in the NFR cooldown room, and I will pick you up from there. Okay, there we go. Well, we've got Virus. We're going to bring Virus into the comms box real quick. And if anybody else joins, we'll bring them in. Okay, so we have Virus in the comms box. Virus, you can hear me. There we go. It's a good sign. Virus, tell me a little bit about your race. I didn't really see the Ferraris for podium potential at the start of the race, but you came out of nowhere. You were in the podium. You were on P3, and what really happened there? Seemed like you pitted out of sync with everybody else?
We actually said our normal pit window was supposed to be on lap 12. And I said, I'm just going to pit at end of lap 9 and see how it goes. I did a huge undercut on a couple of people. And when I saw there was a couple of hard runners behind me, I think it was Andre and Spikes, I said, okay, I should be faster than them. I put around a lap, probably like 23 or so. Yeah, and then Daivan in front of me. I said I didn't even picture him. He was so far ahead. I think about 7 or so seconds. I didn't even think I was going to catch him. And then he had an incident in the last turn, I believe. And yeah, and I said to my teammate, I said to him, Ash, just have to stick with his DRS. He's got 6 seconds. Stick with it as far as possible because he's quicker than I am. And yeah, just stay within that 6 seconds. And yeah, it all ended well at the end of the day. Nice podium and a driver of the day at the end of the day.
I had to feel a little bit there for Divan because it was actually quite interesting. Like if you watch the race, the first stint of the race, like prior to the pit stops, these guys were matching each other lap after lap.
Yeah.
Almost never broke DRS. Maybe they did once or twice, but that was about it. And then after the pit stop, so on the softs, they were matching each other. And then after the pit stop, they came out next to each other just as they went in, both on a set of mediums. And Divan he couldn't keep up. The gap opened up to
Yeah.
about 2 seconds. He picked up his first penalty. Then he picked up his second penalty, and I think a few turns, a few corners after picking up his second penalty, he made that mistake. So he was probably still
Yes.
annoyed with himself from seeing the penalty, and yeah, then the mistake came and just brought
Yes.
you right into contention. Because I think he was 7 seconds adrift, so the 6 seconds wasn't
Yeah.
even quite enough. Um,
Yes.
his mistake is what did the
Yeah,
final.
cost him at the end of the day. Yeah, no, look, it was a nice, exciting race, especially when I got the undercut and I was in some clean air. I was battling to pass the people. People were running a lot lower wings than I was in that small DRS train. I think we were about 4 or 5 cars in a DRS train. And all of a sudden, when I got that undercut, clean air, yeah, it was just nice. Had a nice drive, didn't feel uncomfortable, didn't have a moment. Yeah, all at the end of the day, good race. Couldn't catch Conboy. He was way too fast, but good race at the end of the day.
And of course
Good
we've
result.
got to say officially now we can say it without cursing anybody that this is now the third week in a row that SKR has not seen a safety car. That's
Yeah,
it's some sort of a record that
yeah. So being part of the stewards room, we don't have a lot to do.
there
So
was also
yeah,
no DNFs, so
yeah.
no DNFs,
So
no
it's all
safety
good.
cars. So should be a quiet week in the steward's office.
Yes,
I'm sure you guys will be
I hope so.
relieved.
I hope so.
Um,
Yeah, no, I hope so. We don't want to work on Mondays.
sometimes I'm sure sometimes you'll have a race, and while the race is happening, the stewards are going, "Oh no, this is going to be bad."
Yes,
Um,
yes, yeah, we've seen those. We have those days before, yeah. But like luckily the last few races, I think even if you go to the previous season, I think we're about 7 or 8 races now without safety cars. Yeah, so it's been good. It's got nice clean driving. I have to say it's a nice driving. Yeah, it's all good, all good.
Also enjoy the getting it done at 6 o'clock means we're done early. It's just 7:15, and I'm sure you've had enough Silverstone for today.
Yeah, straight after Silverstone main race,
Yeah,
we
no,
had
look,
to come to Silverstone
that was
again.
actually pretty quick because I was still watching like one or two driver interviews, and I looked down and I was
Yeah,
like, oh no, it's 5:45. So
yeah. I actually,
it was
yeah, no, that's true. I didn't even watch the interviews. I'm a big Lando Norris fan.
oh yeah.
And I didn't even watch the interviews. I said, oh shit, I need to go. I need to go drive now. I need to just do a couple of TTs just to get some practice in and have a good race.
Look, I was happy with Lewis's win. You know, it wasn't.
Mm,
I didn't want his return win to be a fluke.
yeah,
I wanted his return win to be like a Lewis Hamilton drive, and
domination.
that's what it was. It was a Lewis Hamilton drive. He managed his
Yeah,
tires when he needed to. He managed the gap when he needed to, even when there were faster cars around him, and his teammate was appeared clearly faster all weekend. So
yeah,
look, I enjoyed it, but I feel for Lando. You know, he seems like he's been on the verge for so long. And I know he took that victory in Miami, but it just feels like he should have three or four already. And
yeah. Look, I think it's a couple of strategy calls. I mean, Lewis, that it had the perfect strategy. Put it on the right lap. I mean, that one lap, Lando was, I think, 3 seconds ahead, and he came out ahead after one lap, after he pitted one lap after Lewis. So yeah, I think strategy is actually the concern at the moment, pitting at the right window for McLaren.
I think,
I
uh,
mean, same with
m-
Piastri. They undid Piastri's lap as well.
yeah,
So
no,
yeah,
the Piastri one was like the Lando one was bad. It cost him a position, but the Piastri one was shocking.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
those cars were together when Lando came
Mm.
into the pits, and the next time they got to the start finish line, they could see each other again. And Lando had
Yeah,
made a pit stop, so he like gained 20
y-
seconds on Piastri in one lap, which is
in one lap. Yeah,
ridiculous. So
yeah,
why McLaren thought they'd lose more time double stacking? Well, they lost 20 seconds. They should have brought them in
yeah,
together. And
yeah. It hurt Piastri. Yeah.
actually, Lando should have pitted one lap earlier when Max did.
Yes,
That
yes. And
would have
same, I think. I think if Lando put on mediums instead of
Oh
softs,
yes.
I think he would have hit Hamilton. But
I think
yeah,
that
still a
was
good drive at the
I
end of
think
the
that
day.
was the difference. That was the difference. At the end, you had
Yeah,
Lando versus Hamilton, and you had to take those softs to the end. And I think Hamilton
yeah,
just did a better job on the softs. Um,
he did. Yeah,
because I actually saw a
that was
clip
impressive.
where with Lando the rubber, it was like flying off his front left.
Yeah,
So
yes, yes, yes. No, it took a strain. Eh? No, I have to say, it was a mega drive from Lewis at the end of the day. I mean, he still had to keep Max Verstappen behind without making mistakes, and the gap did come down, but not as fast as Max wanted to. But still, he kept their softs alive at the end. So Lando unfortunately didn't. He just dropped off.
and then one more thing before we go, I don't know when was I actually need to have a look when's the last time it's happened, but obviously it's not common, and I don't think, of course, it's not common in modern Formula One. But you know that this season we've had 5 winners in Formula One.
Yeah.
That's
Oh
it's,
yes,
it's
that's
really
correct. You're
impressive.
right.
We've had
Yeah.
5 winners in 12 races.
Yeah,
So
I actually said to someone today that this is a much more exciting season to watch. A lot more, a lot more competitiveness between top three teams. I mean, Mercedes has come a long way with their car. I think it was a McLaren and Red Bull battle for a while, and now Mercedes has joined the party, which is good. So yeah, let's
I
see.
just feel like Ferrari's taking a step back, and I hope that
Mm,
they can find the ground they need, and we can actually have like a four constructor battle till the end of the championship. That would be amazing.
yeah,
And that will
yeah. I actually,
like whatever happens here, what's the best thing about whatever happens here is this is going to carry into next season.
mm,
So if these guys are close now, because next season these guys aren't going to have, let's say, brand new cars. A lot of these guys are going to bring out like B-spec perfected versions of what they already have because they're going to be developing towards 2026.
26, 6. Yeah, no, that's
So,
true. That's
so I
very much
think
true.
the teams that are very close together now, I think that's just going to translate to next season. So if we have four
Mm,
manufacturers together at the end of the season, I think 2025 could be
yeah,
quite crazy. And then obviously the 2026 regulations will come out, and somebody's going to get them
yeah,
right, and we're going to have dominance. But that's how
yeah.
F1
I hope
works.
like every time, it's not probably where Adrian Newey is going.
Well, if somebody gets it right and they get the dominance, and the dominance
Yeah,
has to go on for a few years, I really hope that's not the case. But if it does happen,
yeah,
I hope it's something interesting, like
yeah. No,
Audi enters F1 and shocks the world. That
yeah, imagine
that
that.
that would be, we whenever whatever round one is going to be in 2026, but
Yeah,
we rock up at Bahrain or we rock up at Saudi for the first round of the season, and it's an Audi front
they
row
just
lockout. Yeah,
knock it out of the park.
that would be
Do you know? Yeah,
Hulkenberg on pole.
do, yeah. I was just want to ask, do you know who the second driver for Sauber is now?
It has not yet been confirmed.
Is not good.
It's it's still like very much looking like the Carlos Sainz rumors won't go away, but he's being like pretty weird. Like he doesn't want to sign with anyone, and he's become like a cork in
Yeah.
the driver market because once Carlos
Yes.
Sainz signs, you're going to see
It's gonna
everybody
be
else's seats will be organized within a month
yeah. Yeah. That's true. That's true.
because Williams want him. Um, Obviously, Sauber want him going into the future with Audi, and
Yeah.
I believe from like sources that I usually trust that he did get an offer from Mercedes, and
Okay.
it was a 1 year contract, and depending on his performance, it could extend to a 2 year contract, and he wasn't happy with it, and he turned it down.
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
he must have a lot of options if he's turning down Mercedes Benz.
Yeah.
So
No,
uh,
I believe so. Yeah.
so I don't know who's going to go
I
in.
believe so.
I would love it to be a second German, to be quite honest. I'd love if that was Mick Schumacher's return to F1.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
that would be quite cool because I hope he doesn't
Yeah.
just land up being a test driver for Mercedes for the next 10 years. Because
Yeah. Yeah.
I
That's
just
currently
I
happening.
just see him sitting there in the pits every weekend, and I'm like, nah.
Yeah.
He should be out on track. You gave him 2 years and a half. It's not fair.
Yeah, and they're underperforming horse, mind you. So
A very underperforming
horse is
horse,
much
and it's not
it's
like
much
he,
more
it's,
competitive now.
it's not like he didn't beat his teammate.
Yeah,
He used to beat his teammate, so I feel sorry for him. He didn't get a good run. Well, he still got a better run than Nick de Vries.
yeah, a longer run at least.
Nick de, you, I've watched like a majority of Nick de Vries' career, and when he got to
Mm,
Formula One, I was like really excited. Like I had this whole thing planned out in my head of how it was going
yeah,
to work. I thought Nick de Vries was
yeah,
going to go to RB. He was going to wipe the floor with Yuki Tsunoda. They were going to
yeah,
promote him, and I was already imagining what a Red Bull race at Zandvoort would look like with two Dutch drivers.
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah,
obviously we got to round six, and they actually
yeah.
fired him one race before his home Grand Prix.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
He never got to race in Holland as a F1 driver. So
Yeah,
Marco, that was a bit rough.
yeah. But what's strange was, I mean, I think he did was it at Spa. He did drove with a Williams. I think it was a Williams.
Yes.
And he got points. I mean, I think he ended ninth or eighth. Can't remember the exact position. I mean, then everyone thought, oh, here we go. Yeah, here's a great driver doing it in a Williams. And then, yeah, unfortunately at Alpha Tauri, he just
And you must remember
fell
Nick
away.
de Vries was a fantastic driver. I mean, when he was in basically when he was in Formula 3 and Formula 2, like he started a little later than the other guys. So when he was in Formula 3 and Formula 2, he was with Charles Leclerc and George Russell and Lando Norris. He was part of that group. He's
Yeah,
just older than
yes,
them because he started later. But he came
yes,
through with that group of guys. He was capable of beating those group of guys, and look where those group of guys are now. And
yeah,
I think he just came into F1 under a very, very, very pressure situation. It's like you do well, you're going to get the best seats in F1. You don't do well, you're fired.
yes,
And
basically, yeah,
here's the tools we're going to give you to do that job. A not so great AlphaTauri. So, his audition was six cars in a not so great car, and
yes,
he
yes,
got fired. So sucks for him. Of course, he went to Formula E. He won it. He's won in WEC. He's done all sorts of things, and then Marco gave him six races. So
yeah.
yeah,
Unfortunately, yeah.
I think he who got it worse. I think Viet got it worse, if I'm not mistaken. I think Viet got fired before the Spanish Grand Prix. So I think he got fired in round five,
Yeah.
and
Uh,
he got replaced by a certain number 33.
yeah. Oh, is
Yeah.
that so?
No,
That was a long
that.
time ago.
Yeah, no, that's actually how that happened. Was
That's where he
I
started.
actually can't remember. Somebody. Oh yes, it was basically Sebastian Vettel, and then Webber left, and then Ricardo came to the team, and the Red Bull wasn't very good that year, and Ricardo did a lot better than Vettel, and Vettel was like the
Yeah.
defending champion. So Vettel left, he went to Ferrari, and Kvyat came to Red Bull to join Ricardo because he was next in line. He was the top performing Toro Rosso driver, and they brought him to the Formula One team. Ricardo basically humiliated him in the first five races, and they fired him. Max Verstappen stepped in for Spain. The Mercedes collided, and as a result, Max Verstappen won his first ever race for Red Bull. So
I remember that. Yeah.
that's it's insane to think about. Like, yeah, wow. And Perez finished two laps behind today. So just thought I'd add that in.
Yeah. No, no, I saw that as well. Got lapped twice. So yeah.
It's like you can't be finishing one lap behind the RBs. It's like
Yeah. And now you make it two.
I mean Nick de Vries was out the door a long time ago,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
I saw that.
so yeah, Perez. Look, I think Red Bull are stressing now because if you've got like those three or four manufacturers on any given weekend, it could be a McLaren, it could be a Merc, it could be a Ferrari, it could be a Red
Mm.
Bull. They're not guaranteed victories anymore. And last
Yes.
year, Max won the constructors' championship by himself. Like his
Yes,
points,
that's true.
if you removed Perez's points, they would have still won the constructors. And this season, that's not the case. He's not winning
Yeah,
every
that's true.
round. He's not dominant. And if Perez doesn't step up, if we constantly have two McLarens or two Mercedes, in the points and Perez is
Yeah, no,
wherever, then we could actually see Red Bull like losing the constructors. So
yeah.
yeah,
Let's check here something.
think
Yeah, so
Max's driver lead is a bit big, but I think in the constructors it's very possible.
yeah, so McLaren, it's about sorry, it's between Ferrari. Ferrari is about 71 points behind now.
Okay. I think
Yeah, and Max is
in the beginning of the
not far away.
season, it just looked like a repeat of last season, and for the most part, it was like the Red Bull was
Mm.
really quick, and that's why they've got that lead. If the season had started like it is now, it would have been havoc.
Yes, yes, yes.
You know,
No,
if
definitely.
we started round one with four quick manufacturers, there's no telling where we'd be now. But
Yeah, and it would be very,
Red Bull had the initial step, and then just seems ever since the Newey thing became official, they haven't brought a proper upgrade to the track. Like
mm,
everyone's bringing upgrades, you never hear about Red Bull coming to the track, and it's like, watch out, boys! Today we brought a big
yeah,
one. Like they don't talk
yeah,
about it. It's kind of weird, and
yeah,
it just feels like that car's stalled in development
yeah.
because
I saw that. Yeah,
everyone's just catching up, and it's like, okay, when are they going to take the next step? Because I'm just expecting them to show up at the next Grand Prix and suddenly be 3 tenths quicker and be like, okay, the Red Bull found what they were missing, but everyone else is getting quicker, and Red Bull's sort of staying there. I mean,
yeah. Staying at the back. Yeah,
Max didn't have the pace to stay with the Williams, to stay with the Mercs in the early stages of the race. So I think that says a lot.
yeah.
But
No, that's
I'm gonna go. I want to thank you.
yeah.
That was a good race. It was a
Thanks.
driver of the day, podium, a little bit of everything. And
Yeah.
I haven't looked at my comment section. I think actually I've still got all my viewers. That's quite impressive. So to everyone who's watching, in future, I think what we need to do is during the course of the race, or at least in the final 5 laps of the race, let's say, I want you guys to send in a question or two that we can put towards the drivers, so that the comment section can also get involved in these interviews. But today wasn't really an interview. It was a bit of a ramble almost. We could have made a podcast.
Yeah.
We could have made a podcast out of it if we had more time. Just
Yeah. Well, there's a
sit,
recording.
just do a whole episode talking about the race.
Yeah.
But
Lekker.
thank you very much for joining. To the viewers,
Thanks,
thank you
man.
very much for watching. And I'll be back tomorrow night, SAFRL Tier 1. I'd love to tell you what round it is, but I don't know. And
Monaco.
oh, we're going to Monaco. Where?
Yes.
Monaco.
Monaco.
There we go. We're
Fun.
going to Monaco. I don't know why we're going to Monaco, but we're going to Monaco. It should be fun. Hopefully, nobody lands up in the marina, and
Yep.
we'll find out tomorrow. So, to you watching, cheers.
Thanks. Cheers. Cheers.